Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Welcome back to iSelf Academy Snippet, your Excel VBA learning. In our today's video, we are about to add the first video of our paid services called Excel VBA at Child's Play. In our video, we're going to learn a lot about the basics of Excel, how the basic syntax that you can create in an Excel coding if you are going to write a code. We're going to talk about variable, data type, basic operation, and display data, and so on. And this is a code that you can write in any version that you possess in our list here. And happy Vijayadashami to all. Let's kickstart a new learning which makes our knowledge goes to the next level. When I go to the VBA part, so the first logic that we're going to learn today is called basic syntax. If you're going for a basic syntax in a VBA, though these are the following things that we have to remember in our mind when we write our code. We need to define a variable, we need to define a data type, and we can combine them to create a basic operation, and then we can also display the answer whether it is coming correctly or not. Let's see what is a variable is all about, and then we'll go forward for the other three topics as we go forward. I will even create one small code for each and every dimension and show you what happens when I do that. When I come back to this point, again, a variable. What is a variable? So again, this is a question that always pops in many's mind, and then variable is a storage space in a code, holds a data for a particular data type, whether you are using a number or a text or a date, it can tell you all those dimensions for you. For example, I can give my own variable. You can write your name also in front of it. Nothing wrong in it. So I give as myVAR because variable is shorts. I gave it and is equal to 0. And then I do add a message here on a text front which is called myMessage as hey. So you can use any one of them, and you can add a text here, and you can add a number here, you can add a date here. Whatever you want to do, you can do that with it. The next point is the data type. Again, the data type is like a storage box. You have different tool to store in different type of boxes here. So whether you're using a fridge or whether you're using a garage tool, so you'll be using a different tool. Something will be in a plastic, something will be in a metal, something will be in a wood. So you can use them accordingly. The same way, normally when I go for Excel, I'm giving some examples here, like a data type of 4 types: integer, double, Boolean, and string. Integer holds all your whole number, double holds your whole number plus your decimal numbers additionally added to it. Boolean will hold all your trues and false, and string will hold your text. The examples are given below. When I give the dimension, or is int as integer, is ans as Boolean, and Ismsg as string here. So you can add as many components as you want in the list. When I go down to the basic operation, again, you can use a Visual Basic application for all your math operators, or I can even use that as a calculator here. Normally, the normal math function that we operate always is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and you can add many more if you want to, like greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to can also be our math operations here. Again, if I want to perform a proper VBA, first, while writing the code, I have to be sure that I'm using the steps correctly here. By that way, we will avoid the syntax errors that we do it. Again, I misspelled the errors spelling here. The first part that we do is first define the variable and data type, and then write your value for the respective life. So now you can see there is an example that comes on the right hand side. You can see I just mentioned what kind of a data that I'm going to feed in a data set. I just did the math operation here completely. I did dim ABC as integer, and then I say A is equal to 10 plus 5, B is equal to 2 divided by 2, and then C is equal to 15 into 5. So this is how we can perform our operations here, and you can do that. And then you can also display these dimensions also. Again, when I use the display option, probably I will either put them in a separate cell next to my results here, or I can define a range or a cell here, or I can use a message box which allows you to pop up as a small information or an output for me. Generally, I call this message box as semi-automatic code. Generally, when I run a larger code, I would like to break the code in between by adding a message box. By that way, the message box will pop up in between, or any function that I'm going to do for a longer time. I want, if the function goes on stages, I would like to have a message box coming in each and every stage, so that I know that the control of the data sets are going well. I generally do this. I don't know how many of them will preferably use the message box often, but I use it quite often when I do deal with it. But sometimes when the operation is too long, we don't want to use the message box a lot. Use the message box wisely. For example, I can just write the result here, and then I can add a message box, and I can write some text in front of it called your result is, and then we can pick up the message results from a point, and then I gave an ampersand function to get this output completely here. So let's see how I'm going to use all these dimensions. And before I go forward and go to the next point, please do like the videos in iSelf Academy snippet, and then please do share and subscribe my YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell icon, and this will allow you to get all your videos that I'm adding for all my members, whether you are a paid member here or you are a public who view my videos regularly to support me. And thank you for that. So let's see how I'm going to use this data set in a code here. So let's create a data set first, and I'm going to create a simple code right now. So I'm going to create a code which literally is going to be like this. Then I'm going to add each and every results one by one. So let's add a small code here. So let's go back to our VBA here, and then I'm going to create a code here. So let me add a new sheet here. I don't want to add a sheet here, directly go to the code window, but I'm adding a new sheet here. If I want to go back to my Visual Basic application editor, this is the first time we're going to go forward. If you go down to the top of the menu bar, you will see a line called developer. Not always we will see a developer tab in our list. If you don't see a developer tab, don't panic. And we do have one more dimension here called automate. I'll teach you how to use the developer for offline Visual Basic script and Office script for offline and online for us. So if you see this, you are using Office 365. If you're not seeing this, probably you are using the old version. You can use the developer tab here. If you don't see both of them here, don't worry about it. Just go to any one of the menu, the standard menus here. Once you go to standard menu, on the right hand side, give a right click here and go to customize ribbon, and then see to that whether you are seeing all these dimensions here, because I have a lot of things here. I'm going to add only the developer here because that's a normal thing that we will add here. So when you get your menus, you will see the developer coming at the last, and you can create your Visual Basic application here. When I click that point, that's going to add a video. I already recorded a video here, or I recorded a macro in here. You can write a macro if you wanted to. In our previous video, I just showed you how we can add a module here. So I gave an Alt-IM to add the modules here. So I'm about to use the same logic here. So when I click this button, I'll say Alt, and then I'll say I, and then I'll say M. That's going to add a new module for me. Again, I'm adding a module for in my personal XLSB. So I will talk about that personal XLSB and the other coding methodology a little later in our next videos. So I'm going to give a sub routine here, and I'm going to write a simple code. I'm going to name them up now. To name them a small code here. So let's see how we're going to do that. So I'm going to name them as simple code. And then when I give an enter, automatically the simple code will come with an end subroutine here. Now you can add your dimensions, variables, another point. And you don't want to add a dimension and variable also, still you can get your answers. But I'm interested in giving a dimension here. I'm going to just say dim a comma b as integer. So when I type this data set, you can see automatically it suggests you what you have to do. Give an enter. Then I'm going to add this. Okay, I'll make this data set a little better. I'm going to say a is equal to 10, and then b is equal to 5, and then I'm going to add one more dimension here. If you want to add another dimension here, I'm going to just say dim total as string, Now I got the list here, so I'll say total is equal to A plus B. So now my code should run for me, but again my code will run, but my code will not showcase an answer here because I only wrote a code here which allows me to get my answers that I'm looking for. If I want a message box here, then I can go for the message box here. I'll say message box, and when I do the message box, it's automatically going to show that. I'm going to say total here. Remember, when you're writing the code, your code has to be the same here, so you cannot just like that pop up a window. Let me see whether my code is running here. Fine, I'm going to close this window and then give an Alt F8, which will allow me to see the codes here. I'll see simple code, and then when I run it, that's going to give you the answer here. But again, my answer is coming as only 15. Probably if I give a prefix to it, that would be nice. I'll give an OK there. Go back to my editing window. I'll give Alt F11. It'll take me to the list here. I'm going to just say addition of variable A and B. I'm going to give a double quotes here because this is a text that I'm adding in front of my data set, and then I want to combine that with the total here, so I'm going to give an ampersand at last. And now I got a list. When I close the bracket and give Alt F8 and then select the second code here, as I wrote this is in a personal XLSB, when I run it, it's going to say additions of variable A and B is 15, or I didn't add the code here. Probably if I add the code here, this is the way we can write. So when you're writing a code, please do make your dataset as simple as possible. Try to write the code in a detailed format. By that way, you can make your dataset work better for you. This is how we can write our first code. We wrote our first code 2 today. This is Vinod signing out from myself Academy's YouTube channel. This is our paid service VBA lesson number 1, where we talked about variable data type basic operation, and also the first code that we learned in our list today, how to add a simple code with dimensions in it, and then how to add a data set, and then how to showcase a small message box to it. Thank you so much. Happy coding.